Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's take up the daily quiz for today. Let's look at the first question. SITMEX, recently seen in news, refers to anti-satellite weapon tested by Russia, maritime exercise between India, Singapore and Thailand, new inflation index developed by the RBI, a report on hunger brought out by the United Nations. See, SITMEX refers to a trilateral maritime exercise involving India, Singapore, and Thailand. So, this makes option B the correct answer. This question was taken up because we have a press release from the Ministry of Defense, according to which the Indian Navy is participating in the SITMEX maritime exercise with Singapore and Thailand. This maritime exercise is being held every year since 2019 and it aims to promote interoperability amongst the naval forces of these three countries. See, this naval exercise is of significance to India because Thailand happens to be a maritime neighbor of India and Singapore is also located in our extended maritime neighborhood. See, this map clearly depicts India's maritime boundaries and helps us understand as to who are the maritime neighbors of India. Here you can see India's exclusive economic zone stretching out nearly 200 nautical miles from the coastline, along with a separate EEZ around the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So, as per this delineation, India shares maritime boundaries with Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, then with Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and Indonesia. So the SITMEX naval exercise between India, Singapore, and Thailand is of significance, not just because India and Thailand are maritime neighbors, but also because Singapore happens to be located in our extended maritime neighborhood. And all the three countries are interested in maintaining stability around the strategic Strait of Malacca, which is located near Singapore as it happens to be an important sea lane of communication. The Malacca Strait is one of the strategic choke points of the world, and the navies of India, Thailand, and Singapore are interested in maintaining peace and stability around this choke point. Now let's look at the second question. Which of the following statements are correct? Birsa Munda is a 16th century tribal freedom fighter. During British rule, he spearheaded an Indian tribal religious movement across the tribal belt of modern day Bihar and Jharkhand. His birth anniversary is marked as the Janjatiya Gaurav Divas to remember the contribution of tribal freedom fighters. Amongst the given statements, the first statement is incorrect, so option C is the right answer. See, Birsa Munda is a 19th century tribal freedom fighter. He was born in 1875 and died in 1900, and during his short lifespan, he made a name for himself by leading a tribal rebellion against the British rule. He is said to be one of India's first tribal freedom fighters, and he belongs to the Munda tribe, which is predominantly found in central and eastern parts of India, in the modern day states of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, West Bengal, etc. Today, the Munda tribe has been designated as a scheduled tribe, and during the British rule, the Mundas were oppressed by British laws, which was promoting feudalism in tribal societies, where the British were using landlords to exploit the tribal communities. So Birsa Munda rose up in rebellion against this exploitation, and he also led a religious movement against the activities of Christian missionaries, and eventually laid down his life as a result of this struggle. So he is regarded as a leading tribal freedom fighter, and to pay tribute to his contribution, recently the Union Cabinet decided to mark his birth anniversary, which falls on the 15th of November, as the Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, in order to remember the contribution of all tribal freedom fighters. Now let's look at question number 3. Rani Kamlapati belonged to which tribal community? Santal, Gond, Muria, Baiga. The correct answer is option B, the Gond community. See, Rani Kamlapati was a 18th century queen who was one of the wives of Nizam Shah, the ruler of the Gond dynasty, which was centered around present day Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. Rani Kamlapati belonged to the Gond tribal community, which today is one of the largest tribal communities in India, and they are found across states such as Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Bihar, and Odisha. After the passing away of Nizam Shah, Rani Kamlapati is said to have taken over the Gond dynasty and was not only known for her administrative skills, but is also said to have fought bravely against the aggressors. She is also considered to be the last Hindu queen of Bhopal. We have taken up these two questions on tribal leaders because we have a related article in the Hindu. According to the article, the Prime Minister has reached out to tribal communities by unveiling several important schemes and projects. To mark the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda, which is celebrated as Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, the Prime Minister inaugurated several projects in Jharkhand, including a museum that is dedicated to the life and works of Birsa Munda. After recalling the bravery of this tribal leader, the Prime Minister has also inaugurated a modernized railway station in Bhopal, which has been named after Rani Kamlapati. The Prime Minister has also stated that as the country celebrates its 75th year of independence, the government is going to honor the contributions of tribal communities around the country, not only to highlight their contribution in the freedom movement and in the nation building process, but also to protect and conserve their art and culture. So, in line with this initiative, the government is looking to set up 9 more tribal museums in states such as Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, etc., all of which have a significant tribal population. Now, let's look at the fourth question. Which of the following statements are correct? Forex reserves are maintained by the RBI. RBI often intervenes in the forex market and buys up US dollars to prevent the rupee from losing its export competitiveness. This has led the US Treasury Department to put India on its currency manipulator watch list. All the three given statements are correct, so option D is the right answer. See, the foreign exchange reserves of the country are maintained by the Reserve Bank of India, and it often intervenes in the forex markets to stabilize the rupee, especially when it becomes volatile following a sudden influx of US dollars into the stock markets. So, such a sudden strengthening of the rupee will have an adverse impact on the exporters as it reduces the export competitiveness of Indian exports. So, in such circumstances, the RBI directly intervenes in the forex market and buys up the excess US dollars that has flown in order to stabilize the rupee and to protect India's export competitiveness. But the United States sees this as currency manipulation and hence has placed India on its currency manipulator watch list. This question has been taken up because, according to this article in the Hindu, the RBI has remained the net buyer of US dollar as per the data that has been released by the central bank. Now let's look at a practice question from the 2019 prelims paper. The economic cost of food grains to the Food Corporation of India is minimum support price and bonus, if any, paid to the farmers, plus transportation cost only, interest cost only, procurement incidentals and distribution cost, procurement incidentals and charges for godowns. The correct answer is option C. Because when the Food Corporation of India is procuring food grains from the farmers, the total economic cost of these food grains incurred by the FCI is the MSP, or the minimum support price, along with the bonus, if announced, which is paid to the farmers, and it also includes procurement incidentals and the total distribution cost. Because the FCI incurs a cost in procurement and distribution, where it has to pay for freight charges, godown charges, and as well as for the entire logistics of procurement and distribution. So this is the total economic cost of food grains procured by the FCI, and hence option C is the right answer. Now, coming to the fact of the day, let's look at this press release from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. According to the article, the Health Ministry has notified a new protocol for post-mortem or autopsy procedure. See, post-mortem or autopsy is the forensic examination of a dead body to look out for evidence of any foul play that could be involved with the death of a person. Up until now, the protocol was that autopsies could not be conducted during night time, and this was considered as an outdated provision. This restriction on conducting autopsies during the night time was introduced several decades ago when hospitals didn't have the required infrastructure because poor lighting in hospitals was considered to affect the post-mortem procedure. But considering the rapid advancement that we have seen in technology and as well as in hospital infrastructure, this protocol was considered to be an outdated provision, and hence there was a long standing demand for the Health Ministry to revise this protocol, and accordingly, it had constituted a technical committee to examine the issue and provide for recommendations. Based on the recommendations of this technical committee from the Directorate General of Health Services, the ministry ascertained that several advanced hospitals are already conducting night autopsies. Plus, also, this procedure was affecting family members of the deceased, as the delay in autopsy was delaying the funeral as well, thereby placing an emotional stress on the family members. Then, this restriction was also delaying organ donation because organ harvesting is very time sensitive, and the long delays in performing postmortem as a result of this outdated restriction was affecting organ donation as well. So the Health Ministry has decided to accept the recommendations of the technical committee and has accordingly revised this outdated protocol and has come out with a new protocol for autopsies. So this new protocol allows autopsies to be performed during night time as well, provided if the hospitals have the right infrastructure, which shall be assessed by the hospital in charge to ensure that such autopsies do not result in the dilution of evidence. The Health Ministry has also mandated that the hospitals have to provide for video recording of these autopsies, which will be conducted in the night time, in order to rule out any suspicion of the evidence being tampered with. And this video recording would also be preserved for future reference for legal purposes. This new autopsy protocol is expected to bring relief to family members of the deceased and will also aid organ donation as the organs can be harvested in time. But however, in cases of homicide, suicide, rape, decomposed bodies, suspected foul play, the restriction on performing autopsies during the night shall continue, and it can be relaxed only when there is a law and order situation arising out of these cases of unnatural deaths. So with this, let's conclude our discussion for today. Thanks for watching.